Some of my more popular videos are where I make a knife, like my whittling knife and my carving knife. So I wanted to make a bigger knife, kind of a hunting style fixed blade knife, and I was looking around for suitable steel to use to make it, and I've got this older chisel that I want to make the blade with. Now the thing about this chisel is the steel is very hard. I can't even cut into it with a file. So that means that I don't even have to harden it after I finish shaping it, if I'm careful while I'm shaping it. So since the blade wasn't going to present much of a challenge, I thought I would do something different with the handle. And I was looking at various materials to use for handles. And I came across micarta. Micarta is a composite material, usually made of layers of material. So there's nothing new about homemade micarta. There's lots of guys doing it. There's lots of excellent examples out there of it. What I wanted to do in this video was something a little bit different. I've taken a wooden mold and cut it on the bandsaw. What that slight wave in the wood will do is that it'll transfer through the micarta and make it very similar to a figured type wood, like a curly maple almost. Anyway, that's enough talk. Let's get on with how I did it. To make mine, I've got two different materials here. I've got an older work shirt that was willing to be sacrificed to the cause, and I've got an older pair of coveralls that are canvas material, really tight weave. They're both complementary colors, I think. This is a darker greenish, and this is a tan color that should turn out fairly brown once it gets saturated with the epoxy. All right, well, I've cut out a bunch of material. I cut out, it's actually one leg of the pair of coveralls in the canvas material, and the work shirt material, which is quite a bit thinner. It's pretty much the entire back of the shirt, and I got roughly 18 pieces of each. So what I've been trying to do is figure out how many layers of material I'm going to have to put in the mold. Once it's compressed, I need to wind up with a certain thickness. Because of the wave that I cut in the mold here, I'm going to lose about 1/8 of an inch from the top and bottom anyway. I put a ruler in between, and you can see that once it's pressed together and after I take it from the mold, it's going to have these waves in it, top and bottom. So I'm going to lose the peaks of these waves when I make it flat. So it has to be 1/8 of an inch thicker on the top and 1/8 of an inch thicker on the bottom. So a total of 1/4 inch. If I want to wind up with a 1/4 inch thick handle, I have to make sure that what I have in here is at least a 1/2 inch thick, if not more. Okay, well, I figured it's a pretty close thing, but I'm going to have to use every one of these strips. There's almost 40 layers here to make up the 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to mix up the epoxy now and saturate these thinner strips. I'm not going to saturate the other ones because I think that what's going to happen is there's going to be enough glue in one strip of this to saturate the one below it once it's under pressure. And this glue is expensive. I don't want to waste it having it run out all over the place. I'm going to start out with 2 squeezes. I don't think that's going to go very far. Now I just need to mix that up. Okay, you're supposed to mix this about 1 minute, and it's been about that long. This epoxy has a fairly long open time, and plus it's a little bit cool here in the shop. I'm going to pour it into this container, and then I'm going to take each individual strip and put it right in the epoxy, dab it around, and then kind of wring out the excess. In the meantime, I'm going to take a strip of the other one and lay it on there. Now, you'll notice that I'm not using any plastic or anything for the form. I don't care if it sticks to this. That'll just make it easier. I can run it through the table saw to cut off the wood afterwards. Then I'm going to take the strip of material that's got the epoxy in it, spread that out, and put it on top. Then I can put another strip of the light colored material on top of that. Now this is going to take a while. I'll turn the camera back on when I'm very close to the end. Okay, I'm down to the last 3 layers. That's 2 of the dark colored ones and 1 of the light colored ones, mopping up the rest of the epoxy and squeezing it into the material. If you're wondering how much epoxy it took to do this, it took 9 pumps from the things here. I don't know what that measures out to be. It's probably more than this cup full. So I expect there's going to be a lot of squeeze out. Okay, so now all the layers are piled up. All I need to do is clamp on the other side of the form here with as many clamps as I can get on there. I want the pressure on this to be intense. That's what will create the really fine layers. All right, I'm starting to put clamps on. I need to get on as many as will fit. But I can already see the epoxy starting to squeeze out. So I'm probably going to have some dripping going on. Okay, the epoxy is running out quite a bit. And to stop it from getting on my clamps any more than it already has, I'm going to just stand it up on end like this and let it dry overnight. And we'll come back tomorrow and have a look, see how it did. Okay, well, it's the next day. It's had overnight to dry. What I actually did was I took it inside my house last night because even though I have some heat in this shop, it doesn't really get warm. I don't have the thermostat set to a higher temperature. I'm just going to take the clamps off. Some of them are a little bit glued on here. This epoxy is hardened up just like glass. It's almost dangerous to touch. All right, it looks very substantial. I'm just going to take it to the miter saw and trim off the ends and see what it looks like. Okay, I got the flat part of it held up against the fence, and I'll just cut it off. To trim off the raw edge, I've got my tapering jig and small parts holder set up on my table saw. Now what this does is it holds the part securely while I run it through the saw, and in effect it'll make this edge here as straight as the fence is, so that I can put this edge then up against the fence and cut the other side. take it out. That looks really neat just from the edge. The next thing I'm going to do is put it up against the fence and cut the other side. Then I can cut the wood off both edges, trying to get it as close to the bottom of those waves as I can. I want to preserve as much of the micarta as I can, so I got a little bit of wood left here. What I'm going to do is sand this down. So that leaves me with a block of micarta that's about a 1/2 inch thick. Now it's going to get thinner because I need to do a little bit more sanding to get these pieces of wood out of here. But this is thicker than I need, perfect material for handles. Okay, well, I brought my sander over here to the table saw so you can get a better look at it. I'm going to sand this down. One thing, you probably should wear a dust mask when you're cutting this. The dust is probably pretty bad. I'm just going to sand this on one side and see how it turns out. Well, I did a bit of sanding on it and it turned out great. I put a little bit of clear finish on this end just to bring out the grain. Another cool thing to do that just occurred to me while I was sanding it was that maybe a good idea to leave the wood. I mean, if you were particular about the wood you made your mold from, maybe pick a wood that you really like I don't know, like walnut or something, and then leave the bottoms of the ripples in, similar to this here. You'll have wood inlays in the micarta, and that'll look fantastic once it's all sanded out. I gotta admit that this was fun to do. It's certainly something that I've been wanting to do for a while now, and I'm glad I've gotten around to doing it. Now, in the meantime, this will sit on the shelf until I get the knife at least partially done, and then I can start shaping the size of the handles. Until then, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.